Have you ever read the book of Job and wondered why God let a righteous man like Job suffer so much? In a larger sense, have you ever wondered why God allows suffering in general? That's a pretty huge question, and it definitely deserves more time than a 5-minute YouTube video. But today, I'd like to look at the book of Job and pull one major thing from it that I think shows why God might allow some suffering in this world. Welcome to A Mile in Jake's Boots, my YouTube channel dedicated to faith and adventure. So before I go any further, I just want to talk about the book of Job a little bit. If folks haven't read it, a really brief summary of the book of Job is that long ago there was this guy named Job, and he was a righteous guy. And Satan came before God and basically said that the only reason that Job was following God is because God had blessed him so much. See, Job was pretty wealthy. He had like thousands of animals, and he had a wife and lots of kids and property. And the devil basically said to God, the only reason Job loves you is because he's so blessed. And so God allows throughout the book the devil to go and basically put a lot of bad stuff in Job's life. He causes all of his animals and servants, a lot of his servants and herds to be killed. Eventually his kids and wife are killed. And then Job, God allows the devil to afflict Job with like boils all over his skin, like leprosy or something. And so the entire time, Satan is trying to get Job basically to curse God. And though Job does get pretty frustrated and confronts God about it and some of his friends, and he does actually curse the day of his own birth, he doesn't end up cursing God. And in the end of the story, again, to summarize it, it says in the end of Job, in the book of Job, that God actually blessed the second half of his life even more than the first half of his life. So yeah, that's a quick primer on the book of Job. And so why did God allow suffering in Job's life? Well, I think one major reason might be simply that the example of Job going through suffering as a righteous man and sticking firm to his faith in God has been an example for generations, is an example today yet, and will continue to be an example of someone that relied fully upon God and never turned from him for years to come. I think that's a huge encouragement. I think when I think about the book of Job and the life of Job in those 40-some chapters, it's been really encouraging to me several times throughout my life. And I also believe that the converse isn't true. If you look at the book of Job and you read it, I don't think anybody reads it and says, wow, after I read that book has caused a lot of suffering, even more suffering over the years, right? No one says that, right? I know myself personally going through really difficult times, many times in my life, I've went back and read through it and found encouragement because he complains to God. He gets frustrated. We all would, right? But again, he never curses God. He sticks with it. In the book of Romans, chapter 8, verse 28, the Bible tells us that in all things, God works good for those who love him. I think Job is a really great example of this, and it just goes right to that point that I was speaking about earlier, is that think about all that Job went through. And it's not good. I'm not trying to make light of anyone going through really difficult times in their life. I mean, Job lost his wife and his kids. I mean, I think that sort of goes above and beyond losing herds of animals or losing your house, right? Losing your wife and kids. I can't begin to fathom how hard that was for him. But again, if Jesus Christ is who he said he was, and our bodies are just a vessel, and Job's family ended up in heaven, then imagine that earthly death that they, went through, and the suffering that he went through. Is that worth it? I think if you were in God's shoes, I think that you might look at this, totally different than we do as people. I think in my life, do I want to lose my kids? Oh my goodness, absolutely not. But if they ended up, being saved and being up in heaven with God, and in 2,000 years, I'm 1,900 years dead, and I look back and somehow that suffering and me getting through that brought other people to faith, I think that our perspective would be very different. My friend Kathy once said to me in a really stressful part of my life that I should look and see what God's already done. And she was right on the money. I don't mean to make light of anybody's suffering or trials, right? I have been, through some of my own stuff, but my life has been pretty good. But what I would encourage people to do is to get into the book of Job, take some time to read through it and consider what he went through, and then consider all the good that has come from that for thousands of years and for thousands of years to come, and see how that story may have encouraged, millions and millions of people. Thanks for tuning in to A Mile in Jake's Boots. Please subscribe to my page and share it with some buddies. I hope I can bring some encouragement into your life. And be sure to check out our hiking and climbing videos too. And as always, get into the great outdoors. Hello, bird.
How are you doing?